Have you ever noticed that some of the smartest people you know don't enjoy crowded rooms? They leave parties early. They ignore group chats. They spend weekends alone, reading, thinking, building, creating. People often assume they're antisocial, or arrogant, or emotionally distant. But what if the truth is completely different? What if solitude isn't a weakness, but a preference shaped by how their minds work? Intelligence doesn't just mean being good at exams. It changes how you process conversations, how you experience emotions, how you respond to noise, conflict, and shallow interaction. For many intelligent individuals, the world feels louder, faster, and more overwhelming. And sometimes, being alone feels like the only place where things finally make sense. Today, we're exploring the real psychological reasons why smart people often prefer solitude. Depth over small talk. How's the weather? What do you do? Did you watch the game? We've all had these conversations. They fill silence. They pass time. They keep things socially smooth. But have you ever walked away from a room full of people and still felt completely alone? Because sometimes, it's not loneliness we feel. It's the absence of depth. There are people who can talk for hours, yet say nothing meaningful. And then there are conversations that last 10 minutes, but change the way you see life. Depth is rare. In a world that rewards speed, noise, and constant updates, real conversations, honest, vulnerable, thoughtful ones, are becoming uncommon. Today, we're talking about why so many people are starting to choose depth over small talk, and why it matters more than ever. What small talk really is. Small talk isn't evil. It serves a purpose. It creates comfort between strangers. It reduces social tension. It helps people test the waters. But small talk lives on the surface. It avoids risk. It avoids vulnerability. It avoids discomfort. And while that keeps things safe, it also keeps things shallow. You can know someone's job, hobbies, and weekend plans, and still know nothing about who they truly are. Why depth feels different? Depth begins where masks come off. It's when someone says, "I'm not okay lately." It's when someone asks, "What actually makes you feel alive?" It's when conversations shift from performance to presence. Depth requires honesty. It requires listening, not waiting for your turn to speak. It requires courage. Because the moment you go deeper, you risk being seen. And being seen can be terrifying. Why many people avoid deep conversations. Depth demands vulnerability. And vulnerability feels dangerous in a world that often judges weakness. Social media has trained us to show highlights, not struggles. We share achievements, filtered photos, polished opinions. But rarely do we share fear, doubt, confusion. Small talk protects ego. Depth challenges it. And that's why many people unconsciously stay at the surface. Why some people crave depth. There are individuals who feel drained by surface-level interaction. They don't dislike people. They dislike pretending. They want to talk about dreams, about purpose, about why people behave the way they do, about what keeps us awake at night. They don't find fulfillment in gossip. They find fulfillment in understanding. For them, one honest conversation is more energizing than 100 casual exchanges. The emotional power of being understood. There is something deeply healing about being understood. When someone listens, truly listens, without interrupting, judging, or fixing, it creates connection. Real connection isn't built on how many times you've talked. It's built on how real you've been. And depth accelerates that process. It allows two people to move past roles and labels, and meet as human beings. The cost of constant small talk. When life becomes a series of surface interactions, something feels missing. You might have many acquaintances, but few real connections. You might attend events, but feel emotionally untouched. Over time, this creates quiet dissatisfaction, because humans are wired for meaning, and meaning lives below the surface. How to move from small talk to depth. Depth doesn't require dramatic confessions. It starts with better questions. Instead of, "What do you do?" ask, "What do you enjoy about what you do?" Instead of, "How are you?" ask, "How have you really been feeling lately?" Then, listen. Don't rush to fill silence. Don't turn the spotlight back to yourself too quickly. Presence creates depth. Depth requires the right people. Not everyone is ready for deep conversations. And that's okay. Depth requires emotional maturity. It requires self-awareness. It requires willingness. You can't force it. But when you find someone who meets you at that level, the connection feels effortless. Time disappears. Energy increases. And you leave feeling fuller, not drained. Alone time fuels creativity. What if the very thing most people try to avoid is the secret to creativity? Silence. No notifications. No conversations. No expectations. Just you and your thoughts. In a world that constantly demands attention, choosing to be alone can feel strange. But for many of the most creative minds in history, solitude wasn't loneliness. It was power. The misunderstood power of being alone. Society often confuses being alone with being isolated. But they are not the same. Loneliness is painful. Solitude is intentional. Alone time is a space without interruption. A place where your mind can breathe. And creativity doesn't thrive in chaos. It thrives in clarity. Why creativity needs silence? Creativity is not just about talent. It's about connection, connecting ideas, memories, emotions, and imagination. When we're constantly surrounded by noise, conversations, social media, deadlines, our brain stays in reaction mode. We respond. We scroll. We reply. But creativity requires reflection. And reflection requires quiet. When you're alone, your brain shifts from consuming information to processing it. That's where original ideas begin. The science of solitude. When you're alone and relaxed, your brain activates something called the default mode network. This is the system responsible for imagination, daydreaming, and deep thinking. It's active when you're walking alone, showering, sitting quietly without distraction. Many breakthrough ideas don't happen during meetings. They happen in silence. Even innovators like Steve Jobs were known for long reflective walks. And thinkers like Albert Einstein valued quiet contemplation to explore complex ideas. Solitude gave them space to think beyond the ordinary. Why constant socializing blocks creativity? When you're always around people, your mind adapts to social expectations. You filter your thoughts. You adjust your behavior. You respond to external energy. But creativity often requires unconventional thinking. And unconventional thinking feels safer in private. Alone, you can explore strange ideas without judgment. You can experiment without embarrassment. You can fail without witnesses. That psychological freedom fuels innovation. Boredom, the hidden spark. Most people try to eliminate boredom. They reach for their phone the second silence appears. But boredom is not empty. It's a doorway. When your brain isn't stimulated externally, it starts generating internal stimulation. Ideas, scenarios, possibilities. Some of your most creative thoughts will appear when you have nothing else to do. Mental exhaustion in social settings. Have you ever left a social gathering and felt completely drained? Not physically tired, but mentally exhausted. You smiled. You talked. You participated. But the moment you got home, you just wanted silence. If this sounds familiar, you're not broken. You're not antisocial. There's a deeper reason behind it. Social interaction is natural for humans. But not all brains experience it the same way. For some people, social settings are energizing. For others, they are overwhelming. Mental exhaustion in social situations isn't about hating people. It's about how your brain processes stimulation. And today, we're breaking down why certain minds feel drained in environments that others seem to enjoy. The hidden mental work behind socializing. When you enter a social environment, your brain activates multiple systems at once. You monitor your words, your tone, your facial expressions, other people's reactions, social hierarchy, group dynamics. You're not just talking. You're calculating. For some individuals, especially deep thinkers or highly self-aware people, this mental processing is constant and intense. It's like running multiple tabs in your brain at the same time. Eventually, the system overheats. Overanalyzing conversations. Some people don't just hear words. They analyze them. Why did they say that? Did my response sound confident? Was that sarcasm? Did I offend someone? This overprocessing doesn't stop when the conversation ends. It continues later, replaying moments again and again. Psychologist Carl Jung described how introverted minds tend to direct energy inward, leading to deeper internal reflection. That reflection is powerful. But in social settings, it can become exhausting. Sensory overload. Social environments often come with background noise, multiple conversations, music, bright lights, constant movement. For highly sensitive or perceptive individuals, this creates cognitive overload. Your brain isn't filtering lightly. It's absorbing everything. Even if you're not consciously aware of it, your nervous system is working overtime, and prolonged overstimulation leads to fatigue. Emotional monitoring. Another invisible factor is emotional scanning. Some people naturally tune into others' moods. They sense tension, discomfort, excitement, insecurity. While this makes them empathetic, it also makes social spaces emotionally heavy. They're not just managing their own emotions. They're subconsciously absorbing everyone else's. And that emotional labor consumes energy. The pressure to perform. Social settings often require performance. You must appear interested, confident, engaging, positive, even when you're tired or distracted. That performance requires self-regulation. Self-regulation consumes mental energy. Research in psychology consistently shows that decision-making and emotional control drain cognitive resources. So after hours of social interaction, your mental battery is low. Why some people feel energized instead? It's important to understand. Not everyone experiences this exhaustion. Extroverted individuals often gain energy from interaction. Their brains are stimulated positively by social reward. But introverted or analytical individuals expend energy in those same situations. Neither is better. It's simply different wiring. The aftermath, social hangover. Mental exhaustion often shows up as irritability, silence, need for isolation, headaches, difficulty concentrating. You might cancel plans the next day. You might avoid messages. This is not rudeness. It's recovery. Your brain needs quiet to reset. Smart people often have extremely active internal dialogue. They reflect constantly. They replay conversations. They analyze decisions. They imagine possibilities. Their mind is rarely quiet. For many, solitude is not empty, it's full. It's where ideas connect. It's where creativity grows. It's where clarity forms. History shows us this pattern. Think of thinkers like Albert Einstein or Isaac Newton. Both valued long periods of isolation to think and create. Solitude allowed their minds to expand without interruption. They prefer quality over quantity. Smart people usually have fewer friends, but stronger bonds. They don't chase popularity. They don't need validation from large groups. They invest deeply in people they trust. A small circle provides emotional safety, intellectual stimulation, and authenticity. Large social networks, on the other hand, often feel performative. And intelligent individuals value authenticity more than attention. They often feel misunderstood. When your interests are different, when your humor is subtle, when your thinking challenges norms, you may feel out of place. Over time, constantly explaining yourself becomes tiring. Instead of shrinking their personality to fit in, many smart people choose peace. They would rather be alone than pretend to belong. They are comfortable with themselves. Many people fear being alone because silence forces them to face their thoughts. But intelligent individuals often develop strong self-awareness. They reflect on their flaws. They analyze their behavior. They seek self-improvement. Being alone doesn't scare them. It strengthens them. They use solitude to grow. Ambition requires focus. Highly intelligent individuals are often goal-oriented. Deep work requires uninterrupted time. Building skills. Learning new concepts. Planning the future. Constant socializing fragments focus. Solitude protects momentum. To them, temporary isolation is a trade-off for long-term achievement. Important clarification. But let's be clear. Preferring solitude does not automatically mean someone is intelligent. And being social does not mean someone lacks depth. This is not about superiority. It's about cognitive style. Some minds recharge through people. Others recharge through silence. Both are valid. Depth strengthens resilience. When life becomes difficult, it's not acquaintances who carry you through. It's the one friend who listens without fixing. The partner who understands your silence. The sibling who knows your history. Deep relationships create emotional anchors. They reduce stress. They build confidence. They offer perspective. The risk of depth. Deep relationships are powerful, but they also carry risk. The deeper the connection, the deeper the potential hurt. Trust requires openness, and openness requires courage. That's why some people avoid depth completely, but those who choose it accept the risk, because the reward outweighs the fear. The misunderstanding of small social circles. People with small circles are often labeled as reserved, introverted, distant, but in reality, they may simply be intentional. They don't chase validation. They don't collect people for status. They invest where it matters. And when they commit to someone, they commit fully. Signs you prefer fewer but deeper relationships. You might relate if you have a very small friend group. You avoid large gatherings. You value long conversations over frequent ones. You feel drained by surface interactions. You protect your personal information carefully. This isn't social weakness. It's emotional selectivity. The balance. Of course, balance matters. Community is important. Networking has value. But depth should never be sacrificed for appearance. It's better to have 3 people who truly know you than 30 who only know your highlights. Maybe the real issue was never about being antisocial. Maybe it was never about being distant. Maybe it was about energy, about depth, about understanding how your mind truly works. Some people bloom in noise. Others bloom in silence. Some feel alive in crowds. Others feel alive in reflection. And neither is wrong. We live in a world that constantly pushes connection. More networking, more posting, more talking, more exposure. But very rarely do we talk about balance. Very rarely do we acknowledge that stepping back can be just as powerful as stepping forward. If you've ever felt drained in social settings, if you've ever preferred one deep conversation over 100 casual ones, if you've ever needed space to think, recharge, or create, you're not broken. You're self-aware. And self-awareness is strength. Understanding your energy patterns allows you to build a life that fits you, instead of forcing yourself into environments that exhaust you. Solitude can sharpen clarity. Depth can strengthen bonds. Selective connection can protect your peace. The goal isn't isolation. The goal is intentional living. Choosing when to engage. Choosing who to invest in. Choosing environments that align with your mental and emotional rhythm. When you understand yourself, you stop apologizing for how you recharge. And that's where confidence begins. If this video resonated with you, take a moment to reflect. What truly energizes you? Crowds? Or quiet? Surface conversations? Or meaningful dialogue? Let me know in the comments. I genuinely read them. If you enjoy content about psychology, personal growth, and understanding the deeper layers of human behavior, make sure to subscribe. And until the next video, protect your energy, value depth, and never feel guilty for choosing peace. I'll see you in the next one.